Who starts first?
So we'll have the chief, and then yourself and Doreen.
Okay.
Okay, so so I'll just go through the lineup. We're going to start with Chief Norma Cataract of Buffalo River Dene Nation, and then we'll have Elders Doreen Pichet and Lawrence Pichet gives some remarks, and following them will be Tribal Chief Richard Ben of the Meadow Lake Tribal Council, and then Vice Chief Heather Bear of the FSIN, Chief Bobby Cameron of the FSIN, and then lastly Vice Chief Dutch Leroy of the FSIN. So with that, I'd like to call up Chief Norma Cataract.
Good afternoon, everyone. As a community leader, I am restating a state of emergency that I issued on June 3rd, 2022. Buffalo River is a community of about 800 people, and we have two smaller communities that are surrounding us. Over the weekend, we had an elder physically assaulted by an individual who was released for the Pine Grove Women's Detention Center, 4 days after her release. Our elder sustained broken ribs and bruised collarbones, and the trauma she has to live with. She hasn't returned home yet. This happened in an elder's unit. And the gangs and the drugs are come to a point in my community where my community is living in fear. People are feeling powerless. The gang violence, the drug war, the crystal meth. A person in psychosis is very unpredictable. And I thank the Creator today that our elder survived and was heard and was rescued. There's a lot of arson happening, the gang wars, houses are being burned, vehicles are being burned. The crisis is overwhelming, and the ability to feel safe in a community and the well-being of our members are at stake. And this is escalating. We need to take extreme measures, and we are calling on the federal and provincial government. We are using our own resources to put additional security into our community right now. We are looking into getting training for our elder self-defense courses. When you are in the state, in the community, and as a leader, it's overwhelming. For a small community to have 3 gang affiliations, gangs driving around with handguns, intimidating people, elders sitting at night with a gun loaded till their wife can sleep because their grandkids are affiliated with gangs. It is a crisis. It is an emergency. We need to do something now. We are asking for capacity, for resources to help sustain and put a stop to a lot of this violence going on in our community. We are very close to having a loss in our community, which goes back to a few weeks ago when we had a big loss in one of our First Nations communities. And that could have been one of us. It could be any community. And we are asking the government to acknowledge and to offer support to help our people. A lot of this stems from a lot of the things that happened and a lot of teachings that need to be brought back to life for our young people, the young generation, and for the community, the tribe. So that we are reinstating a state of emergency as of today. And we would like to have services and resources. Living in the north, we don't have detox centers in our communities. Living in the north, we don't have mental health therapists outside our back door. We have to drive 6 hours to see a mental health therapist. For detox, you have to be on a waiting list to go into detox. If somebody's in psychosis and picked up, they're held in the cells or in the hospital for days and then released. And these are issues that we have to deal with in the northern communities, and a lot of the resources that we don't have, and we don't have the capacity to be able to help our people. With that, I'd like to say thank you for everyone that's here. Thank you to the elder for the prayers. I'd like to thank FSIN for arranging, because this is not just one, it's an overwhelming issue that's taking over a lot of our First Nations communities. And we need each other, we need each other's support to be able to deal with a lot of the stuff that's going on right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Next, I'd like to call up Elder Lawrence Pichet.
I'm wishing good afternoon to all the people out there. It's a beautiful sunny day, but yet we are suffering. I know it has a lot to do with how we're brought up in residential school, how we're brought up in day school. I know we got a lot of lickings, we carry a lot of scars from the school. And somehow, down the road, the teachings of the European religion, we lost our teachings. We lost how to teach our young people. Today, I am asking those gangs out there, I'm asking you, you're supposed to be warriors. Your job is to help the elders and the people. I ask of you to take a serious look at yourself. Where am I going? What am I doing? A gang life is something that you're going to end up in prison. That's the life you want. Your gang leaders are not going to feel sorry for you when you end up doing their job and you end up in prison. I ask of you young people, think seriously, deep down. I'm asking of you, let's make changes in your life. Our lives depend on you in the future. We need you. We need your help. So think about that gang life that you're in. Change it around and take on the warrior leadership. I've been doing this for years. I've stood up. I'm like a martyr. I'm willing to give my life for my people so they'll have a good life. So I'm asking you young people out there, think about what you're doing. The drugs, the alcohol, the marijuana, it's all legal now. It's going to destroy your mind. It's going to destroy your mentality. So think about that when you don't take that drug, because you have no control over your mind, your body when you take those drugs. Those drug pushers that are bringing in the drugs, you are destroying your own people. You bootleggers out there, there's elders out there that are bootlegging. You are destroying your people. Let's get back to the 7 teachings that we lived by in the years. And the 7 teachings is, one of them is to care for one another, respect yourself. Once we go back to that, things will be different. You need help. I'm here. You want to talk? I'm here. I'm willing to help. Because I have grandchildren that's in that gang, and it hurts. Because I know where my grandson's going. He's going to go to prison. You young people, is that what you want in your life, or you want a better life? Take responsibility for your action and turn that around to make it good for one another. As us elders, we care about you. But we lost that ability to communicate because of the way we're brought up in that residential school. But today, I am willing to stand and talk again. I've stood with the treaties for many years. I fought for the treaties for many years. And I'm one of the ones that changed to First Nations. I was the one that told the leaders we'll change it to that because they don't know what to call us anymore. And to this day, I stand here, I'm an Indian. I was called an Indian, and I will die an Indian because any other names, it doesn't mean anything. So from the bottom of my heart, I ask you young people, take a look at yourself. I know there's a lot of hurt. I know there's a lot of wrong directions that was given. I take the blame too for the way you guys are. Somewhere, somehow, maybe I didn't do it right. But I ask of you, please, take a look at yourself. Take care of yourself. Because our lives depend on you. Hi. I'm going to turn you.
Okay, next, I'd like to call up Tribal Chief Richard Ben.
Thank you, everybody. I want to, first of all, commend the FSIN for putting this on. And I also want to commend Chief Norma Cataract for bringing these issues. They're not new issues. These are issues we've been dealing with for many years. My years in leadership, 16 years, I've seen deaths, I've seen drug dealers, I've seen gang members. The justice system is failing us on the First Nation. We have to come up with new ways to help our community. I think with the tragedy that happened in James Smith, really shed a light what happens in our communities, what happens at our home fires. It could have easily happened to any of our First Nations. And that scares our nations right now. They are scared to go out there, especially with this epidemic with crystal meth. It's hurting our people. It's driving them crazy. You hear of these deaths that are happening in our community, but no one sheds a light on them till there were many. It happens in our community, and it's the norm. No one says nothing about them. It's just another Indian. It's the norm. We don't talk about it, but it's real. It's happening in our nations right now. Our kids are growing up with it right now. So we have to come up with something together. We have to work with the province and the feds to come up with solutions. Because right now, it's not going good. It's not going good in our communities right now. And as Chief Norma, this is her second time doing a state of emergency. Why do our communities have to issue a state of emergency for us to be heard? You know, I went to her community, and you know, there's 3 different types of gangs there. You know, and no one says nothing because it's normal. They're driving around, they're picking up kids, they're using our kids to sell their drugs, and it's the norm. But we don't talk about it because it's on the reserve, it's on the First Nation. You know, as long as they stay on the First Nation, then it's not our problem. That's the attitude we get a lot. Our justice capacity, where we have, even at our tribal council, Middle Lake Tribal Council, it's very underfunded. You know, we took a 20% cut from the province How could we move forward with justice to try to keep our people safe? It's impossible. And I commend the chief and councils from all the First Nations. They do their best for what they got. So I want to again commend Chief Norma and her council for doing the best they can, but the governments have to come to the table. We have to come up with solutions now. Let's not be reactive, let's be proactive. And I guarantee you, if you have us at the table, we'll keep everybody safe, everybody in Canada. And that's all we ask. Thank you. Nanaskman Mercicho.
Next, Vice Chief Heather Bear, FSIN.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank our creator for the day, and thank you, Lawrence, our elder, that opened us up in a good way with prayer. Thank you to the chief and tribal chief for raising this important issue. We're in a critical crisis situation. What the leadership has talked about are the true realities. Not only Buffalo River, but many other nations are dealing with these crises when it comes to gangs. And it's about community safety. And everyone should be able to feel safe, whether they're in their home, whether they're on the street, whether they're at work. Now again, another woman has been violently attacked and hurt, an elderly woman. MMIWG, the calls to action. We really need to look at our policies and how we're reacting and what we're doing to prevent these types of situations from happening. And we can't do it without any capacity. Now they're calling for capacity. We can't put a price on an elder's life. You can't put a price on a child's life. I mean, what is wrong with government when they say no to capacity? We've been reported on, we've been studied already. Look at the disproportionate amount of our people sitting in the prisons. They're releasing inmates coming out into the nations when the First Nations are saying, no, we don't have the capacity here. We don't have addiction support. We don't have mental health supports. Yet the justice system, they continually releasing them to our communities. And the simple fact that we don't have the response time others have in this country. Look at what happened in James Smith. 40 minutes a response time. And ambulance, way later. You look at fires. They don't come and save the houses on the reserves. They come in out the fire after the house is burnt down. So we need immediate actions, folks. We need immediate action for this community. They're in a crisis. Their school, their children, they deserve to be safe. They deserve to be protected from gangs. And I call on the gangs to please stop what you're doing and quit selling death to our people. I plead with you. We've gone through so much, too much, as Indian people. When you want to look at your rites of passage, go to your elders. Go spend some minutes there instead of doing what you're doing. So with that, I appreciate the messages today and that cry for support. We need action, and we need it immediately. We need long-term and short-term. We need immediate action. And policing needs to be an essential service on every First Nation, not only in this region, but in this country. And everyone will benefit in this country because of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chief. Next, I'd like to call up Vice Chief Ali Bear of the FSIN.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, we want to acknowledge the Creator and, give thanks for this beautiful day that we have here. But, you know, with that, we need to continue to address these situations that are happening in our communities. We stand with our nations, we stand with our tribal councils, we stand with our people. Right now, we see these situations that continue to happen where there's violence and lateral violence. But where does that lateral violence come from? It comes from colonial violence, and that needs to be addressed. And also on top of that, you know, respecting our elders, that's traditional to who we are, but why aren't those traditions alive right now? It's because of the imposition of the Indian Act, the imposition of the band council system. Our traditional governance systems have been dismantled. And so we need to make sure that we are revitalizing those traditional governance systems and implementing them so that we don't have these situations continuing to happen in our communities. But that imposition of the band council system is a breach of the fiduciary obligation from the Crown. The government should be funding us to revitalize our traditional governance systems so that we can be creating prevention, so that we can be teaching our young ones the right way, so that we'll be respecting our elders the way that we once lived. Our traditional governance systems have sustained our people since time immemorial for thousands of years. These types of situations were not flourishing in our communities, and now we see that happening. So it's up to the government as well to step up and to take responsibility for these acts of violence that are happening in our communities on a regular basis so that our people can feel safe. And I see this happening all over, not just here in Saskatchewan, but it's all happening all over Canada. And so I think we need to make sure that we can move forward in a better way, and we need the funding where it's supposed to go, and that's to revitalize our systems that have been dismantled, to rectify the harms that residential schools have done. We talk about reconciliation, but what does that mean? You know, thank you for wearing an orange shirt, but we need to do more than that now. So let's continue to work together so that we can protect our people and our people can feel safe in their communities again. With that, thank you. Padame.
Thank you, Vice Chief. Next, I'd like to call up Chief Bobby Cameron, FSIN.
Atlanate salutina. Tansen wagumagantik. Amatakia peyampetu washte. I thank Lawrence, our knowledge keeper, for the prayer this afternoon. To Chief Norma and Tribal Chief Richard. Vice Chief Heather Bear, Ali Bear, and Dutch Raw. And all those who have been advocating for several decades. Under the portfolio holder, Vice Chief Lara, we've developed and started what we call the First Nation Police Association, where it would see and be guided and supported from our chiefs and councils right across Canada, but to be fully funded, as Vice Chief Ali mentioned earlier, to do the groundwork right at the First Nation level, to have eyes and ears right at the First Nation level, to eliminate the response times, to eliminate those harmful acts of violence as they happen or soon after. We're living in a country where the justice system has obviously failed many First Nations, as Tribal Chief Richard Ben mentioned earlier. So we're calling upon, again, the federal and provincial governments to meet with our chief and councils, such as Norma and others, and our elders. These are the individuals and these are the organizations that will drive this First Nation Police Association. In all honesty, what it is our own police association, driven from our First Nation leadership and band members, to be fully funded, much the same as the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. We've met with Brenda Lucky, Rhonda Blackmore, Marco Mendocino, and many others to get to this point. A few years back, Prime Minister Trudeau and his federal government said policing is an essential service. For us, policing is a treaty right. When treaties were signed in the 1800s, when the chiefs were negotiating and signing treaty, it was guaranteed to our people that there would be peace, and if any harm came to our people, that they would be taken care of. The traditional governance that was mentioned earlier from Vice Chief Ali, to get to that point where we would see those customs and protocols come back, to restore that healthy, vibrant community that we once had. The state of emergency is real in First Nation country. It's an everyday thing. It's a weekly thing. It happens on the 20th of every month and on the 30th of every month. There's a state of emergency every single month where meth dealers and other dealers are selling crack and cocaine and crystal meth and heroin to 10-year-old children. To the media that are here today, thank you. Get the message out. Get the message out from our tribal chief and Chief Norma and our elders. You heard the words from our knowledge keeper here in Lawrence. No elder, no knowledge keeper should ever be put in that position. But he is ready to die to make a better life for the people of Buffalo River. Those are powerful words from Lawrence. I'm ready to die for my community. Our elders should be living their glory days with their grandchildren, not worrying about the safety and well-being. Again, to the media, get the message out there. This is a state of emergency. It is real, and we're living with a state of emergency every week, every month, every year. It's not going away. That police is an essential service, but it's got to be driven from the First Nations, directly from the First Nation leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next, Vice Chief Leroy, FSIN.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone here. My portfolio is justice within the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations. And we do this in conjunction with our tribal councils and, of course, our First Nations. And so when there's a crisis in the First Nations, then it is our crisis to deal with, both at the tribal council and at the regional level. And we stand as an organization behind our chief and our council from Buffalo River in their difficult job of ensuring that there's peace and harmony within the community. It's been said that we have to get back to our traditional systems, restorative justice. We have two initiatives going on within the province that we hope to build from in terms of putting the safety of the community where it will receive its fullest impact, and that's through elders and through ceremony and through processes developed within the community for the community. But we can't do this in isolation. So we call on the provincial federal governments to assist in this initiative. Our chief, safety in the community is the top priority. And so we continue to do what we have to do to ensure that the chief achieves that. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today, and to the chief, Chief Ben, and to my colleagues. We stand shoulder to shoulder with our chief and with our council from Buffalo River. Hi, hi.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chief. Okay, with that, I will open the floor for questions, and then I'll move to the questions from the media online. So I'll just ask you to introduce yourself, say your name, and then ask or direct your questions to whomever. Okay? Thea.
My name is Thea James, and I work for the Saskatoon Star-Phoenix. I did want to ask if a leader could speak to the First Nations Policing Association and probably speak a little bit more about the structure that exists now and what we would like to see come in the future.
Okay, Dutch Lorag again, Second Vice Chief. What do we have a mandate to do from our Chiefs in Assembly, from the National Assembly, is to work to establish with an objective, of course, as I said before, safety within the community. Now, across the province of Saskatchewan, there are many forms of peacekeepers, community safety officers, and there's also many RCMP detachments on reserve. And so we want to, as an organization, be able to work with the tribal councils and with the First Nations to build on what is there. And in some cases, it's going to be tribal police. Other cases, it's going to continue with safety officers, but with mandates to enforce criminal code violations, municipal violations, ban council resolutions. And so we are in talks right now with our federal counterparts, and we continue to work from the First Nation up. What do you require? When do you require? There's some short-term, mid-term, and long-term solutions to this. So that's what, at the end of the day, it's going to be similar to the File Hills Qu'Appelle Tribal Council, tribal police, policing in the community, for the community, by the community.
Hi, Don Summers, CBC. I have a question from Dave Patterson for Chief Norman. In June, you were looking to create a task force. What came of that? What was your strategy to address the issue that led to this reinstatement of the state of emergency?
We had in June, we had the task force come out and do our enforcement drive in the community, which was one drive, and we need more of those drives. We did have a community planning session, and as you heard earlier, we don't have the capacity and the resources to be able to provide the services that needs to be offered to a lot of the individuals. The justice system, the release program, the probation program, corrections program. I've sent a letter to all departments. I did get a response just a couple of days ago to book a meeting with the federal crown, provincial crown, the probation services and correction services. So we are looking at those dates, sending out a couple of dates to see when we can do those. It is slow moving, and it's frustrating because we are on reserve and we're considered federal. And provincial court system is what is applied to the province. And so the provincial court system comes into our community to do court, but we're on federal land. So our bylaws can't be enforced in our community, and we don't have prosecutors, we don't have the capacity to be able to enforce our own bylaws. And when you live in a municipality, you have your own bylaws, where, like the dog control bylaws. We can't have that in our community because there's nobody to enforce it. And with our own police force, these are laws that we can enforce within our communities. and to actually work with our people to better them and to help them to grow. And if we had the capacity, we'd be able to help a lot of our people. And right now we don't. And with the justice system, the way it's going with the release program, probation programs, we are notified and we can respond by saying no, but they are released, which is what happened with the individual that came out. We got a call for her release 4 days prior, and she was released without our permission. And those are things that we did have to deal with on a daily basis. So we need to have a lot of communication and our own community enhanced safety programs for our communities, because everyone's needs are different. Thank you.
Hi, Keenan Sorcon with CTV. Back to you, Chief Cataract. Of all the, I guess, of the concerns with that policing aspect for supports, be the chief among the top one, I guess, amongst all of them, is that the one that would be the immediate support that you need now?
Yes, that would be our immediate support. We need to have more enforcements. Right now, we actually have a meeting set for Tuesday. We are looking into hiring our own security agency to come to our community. The cost is skyrocket because they are retired RCMP members that we're asking to come in and help us to patrol the communities, to help us. And from talking to the guy that owns the security agency, it's going to cost us close to $200,000 for 3 weeks for them to be in our community 24/7. So this is going to come out of our own budget to be able, we have to pay that to be able to bring safety back to the community and for our elders and our community members to feel safe. So we're doing what we can with what we have, and we don't have much. So, thank you.
Before you sit down, I know you mentioned before the recent attack. Could you, sorry, just once again, just describe this person's injuries and just how they're faring at the moment?
She suffered 2 broken ribs. The incident was Friday night, and she's an elder, and she has hearing aids, so she takes them out when she sleeps. She took them out and went to bed. The lady kicked the door in and dragged her. She wouldn't hear it because she doesn't have her hearing aids on. She was dragged out of bed with her hair into the hallway and was beaten. Luckily, some neighbors heard her scream for help, so they came out to assist her. So that's how. And she was transported to hospital, 2 broken ribs and bruised collarbones. So she is not home. She's actually scared to return home. So she's actually in Alberta right now with her daughter. So she hasn't come home yet.
You said there were several elder abuse cases. Has there been other recent cases?
There were 2 incidences over the weekend. One of the elders, that was one of them, and then there was another one where it was alcohol related, where another lady broke into an elder's home and assaulted another elder. So we're not sure whether there was drugs involved in that, but that was 2 cases over the weekend. And these are things, like, we have elders that are sitting around at night with guns loaded so their wives can sleep. So that's because of the affiliation of family members with gangs, and they're scared. And they're not the only ones. I have been targeted. When I called a state of emergency in June, that night there was a black truck, windows all tinted, plates blocked out, driving around my house. And I live away from the community. So now we have cameras, and 2 weeks ago there was another incident. So they're targeting and they're intimidating. So they're using what they can to intimidate the community and to try and take over the community. But like our elder said, I'm willing to do what I can. And I'm not running. I'm not running. We have 5 RCMP members in our community, so the response on Friday was quick. They live right next door to the elders unit, so 911 was called, so they showed up early. But you need to understand, our RCMP, there is 5 of them. We don't have a station in our community. We were approved for a station 10 years ago. It hasn't been built yet. So we live an hour and a half away from Buffalo, which is the nearest community for holding cells. So if someone is picked up, they have to drive to Buffalo for them to book them. It takes an hour there, an hour back on a good day. If the roads are bad, it could take up to 3 hours one way. So they're away from a community for 6 hours on one call. And not just one member can take one person, 2 of them have to go. The other 2 have just got off shift. So they're at home. And the only time they can be called out if it's a life and death situation, because they're working constantly. They are working. I have the reports. It's very overwhelming reports when they come in. They are busy. They are very, very busy. And they're doing what they can, how they can. They're trying to help as much as they can. But it's overwhelming for them and it's overwhelming for the community. So we need to have the security services that we are looking into. It's going to cost us a lot of money. But it is something that we need to put in place now before I have to bury another member. And I don't want it to come to that point.
Hi there, my name is Sam Sampson. I'm from CBC National. I'm just hoping it's okay. I can't hear very well in the room. Is it okay if we ask our questions now? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for holding this press conference. Good afternoon. Really appreciate your time. I just want to clarify one last thing with the attack that happened with the elder on Friday. Is it confirmed that it was like gangs were involved? Was this woman involved in a gang and she attacked her own family member? I'm just a little unclear on the connection between the elder and the woman who attacked her.
The elder is not, they're not related. It's random. And it is a young lady who is in her late 20s. And we do know that she has gang affiliation. And she was in meth psychosis when this happened. And if you know her personally without the drug, she's the sweetest girl. And she broke into a random house and attacked a random elder. Thank you.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. So when you called that initial state of emergency, it sounds like there was some, or were rather some conversations that did happen. But you call it this because it wasn't enough. So when you do get to the table with the provincial and/or federal governments, the immediate help you're saying is extra security. What about with addictions treatment and mental health treatment? What specifically would you like? And the reason I ask this is because it is different in every community, and when we go and write these stories, we want to be very accurate with the calls for help.
In Buffalo River, we do not have a mental health unit. We do not have a treatment center. We do not have a detox center. We have NADAT workers and mental health therapists that work with the community members, and there are limited resources and they are overworked. So we don't have the capacity in the community. Our people have to leave the community. And right now, with the way the system is if you want to go into detox, you have to do an application, you have to be on a waiting list, and you have to be clean for so many days before they take you in. So, and with Our people, if they want to go in, it's time to go in now. That's when the intervention should take place, is when they're ready to go. Not 3 months from now when there's a space open up for you. We have applications out there for mental health units, youth and children's therapists. We haven't heard anything. Those are things that we need for our people to deal with a lot of the stuff that's going on with the mental health, emotional, and the spiritual issues that our people are dealing with now.
Thank you very much for that. My next question is for Chief Bobby Cameron. I was hoping to just clarify, I just wrote it down and I want to make sure I got the phrase correct. The First Nation Police Association. Are you able to elaborate, and I'm sorry I've missed this question already, as I said, I can't really hear the room, but is this a new association that you've created recently? You said you've met with Brenda Luck, you brought up Blackmore, federal government. Yeah, if I could just get a little bit of clarification, please, on when this started and what the ultimate goal is.
Well, it was an idea that was obviously in the making for several years, supported from our chiefs in assembly earlier this year, and then nationally, obviously, to get the support from our chiefs across Canada. And the idea would to take this concept, the terms of reference, the policy, and to bring all of our First Nation retired officers, current serving officers, correctional services officers, and bring them into this association to be driven directly from our First Nations, for our First Nations, by our First Nations. So the work is still ongoing. As mentioned earlier, the federal government has committed verbally and in writing that policing is an essential service. You've heard the many requests and the dire need for First Nation Police Association. And a perfect example is the mass tragedy we recently had in James Smith. Most of them in First Nation, the same situation, dealing with meth and violence, as recent as just on the weekend as well, with Chief Norma Cataract. Gangs and guns, threatening to kill people. Chief Cheryl Capeswat reached out to us, and thankfully they were able to work with the RCMP and have that individual arrested. But this is what this First Nation Police Association would enhance and create a safer, healthier, vibrant community right amongst our own First Nation communities. This is what we'll continue to push for and strive for until it happens. We may not see it in the next couple of years. We hope we do. We have another 3 years with this federal government until the next federal election of 2025. So we'll continue to do our best. Our First Nations expect it, and they deserve it.
Thank you very much. And just to clarify, that would be province-wide, that association?
Well, no, it could be Canada-wide. I mean, obviously, the Federation, we're a proud, strong organization. This organization was the first to create it and to develop it. And we're proud of that because it is a treaty right to justice. We're proud of that. And we're going to continue to offer it, not just provincially, but across Canada for our 634 First Nations that all strive for the same thing.
Thank you. My last question, sorry I'm taking up so much time. My last question, this is for anybody who would like to answer. Do you think that those who are in the federal and provincial government feel the urgency that you do with this state of emergency, considering this is the second one that's been called in here?
Do we feel that they have the same sense of urgency?
Yes.
Yeah, when we speak to them, absolutely. The sense of urgency is there when they speak to us, when they met with us in James Smith. But it's the action. It's the action and the implementation that's required to fund, as Chief Norma Cataract said earlier, to get the funding directly to the First Nations so they can support and create and develop these safety measures for their First Nation people on reserve. That's what's required to the reporter that's asking the question there on the phone, the implementation and action. That's what's required, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we'll end the news conference. But before we do that, I'd like to again ask Elder Lawrence Piché to come up and